Yeah, so hey guys, welcome to this new episode. We decided on last episode to cut the last one in two parts because there was a lot of releases on that week. And yeah, we managed to record 2 days, one after the other. So that's a really big achievement for us, at least.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, guys,
So
we have
this
a lot
time
to talk about.
we'll talk about specifically cameras. The last episode we talked mainly other types of tech like computers and smartphones, and now it's time for the cameras. And we are gonna start with DJI. They have been releasing tech like crazy, and Mati will tell you the first thing that they presented.
Guys, it was just I'm speechless. It's just amazing what they achieved with this release. The Ronin 4D. It's a four-axis stabilized camera. Basically, a cinema camera with an integrated four-axis gimbal.
It's a chicken head.
Yeah, basically. It uses the Zenmuse X9 with a 8K and a 6K version. So that's the DJI flagship camera. It's a full frame with up to 8K, 75 frames per second, and 14 stops dynamic range with an 800 to 4000 native ISO. So not the best ISO, but if you got the money to buy this, you have the money to buy like a 1.2 lens. So they don't care much.
Yeah.
It also, as a cinema camera, includes nine built-in 9 stop ND filters, so that's awesome to have as well.
You
That
have
has to be in a
just
cinema camera.
to clarify, it's not just one ND filter. You have multiple ND filters that sum up, no, that go just up to 9 stops. So you have one of like 1 stop, then 3 stops, and so on till 9 stops.
Exactly, exactly. Well, and this part is like the big news. No other camera at this price includes a lighter focusing system. Basically, it's kind of a not laser, but kind of
Yeah,
system
it's what
that's
the
awesome
iPhone
to focus.
12 and 13 Pro Max have. It's the same technology, but in another level.
Yes. So the guy who has to focus everything, if he misses something, he won't with this one because you also got a wireless transmission system, so you can focus from wherever you want at like I don't know, it was like 5 kilometers range. It was a lot of range, so you can be in a building 3 floors up, and you will still have the mega good resolution, and you can focus and do whatever you want from a big distance. So there has to be just one person walking around and focusing, or just following the person. And talking about that person who has to carry this camera around, it's made out of carbon fiber and aluminum magnesium alloy, so it's very very light. I don't have the specific weight because it changes with the lens you put on, but it's basically very light. And talking about lenses, this camera is revolutionary in this means because it has no mount, or you can say it has every mount because you can change it. You
Yeah.
can put the Sony E mount, RF, DJI, Sigma, Nikon, but nobody uses Nikon lenses really, and every lens mode you want. So yeah, heads up for DJI on that one. Yeah. You also got AI based Active Track Pro. That's like the drones that follow you. You can do that one, and the gimbal and the camera will follow the subject you want. And it's a gimbal. It's a gimbal, so it can turn like 360 degrees around and do basically what the camera wants to do. And obviously thinking that there's a person behind and well the body behind the lens. But yeah, that's amazing.
So yeah, and talking about gimbal, you can lock it up, so you can just turn on the axis that you want to use. So if you want to make it look like you or you have a handheld camera without any gimbals, you can just lock them up and use it like that, or just lock the fourth axis. So you have a lot of possibilities. And this time, what is really nice about this camera is that you have an integrated SSD. So you just plug it in, and when you're ready, plug it out and connect it to your computer, and you're ready to go. And if you don't want to use this SSD, you can connect an CF Express Type B adapter in the spot of the SSD and just use that. And finally, the prices. For the 6K version, it costs 7,199 US dollars, and for the 8K version, $11,499. And the thing is, if you compare it to cinema cameras, they're relatively much expensiver. If you say, or more expensive, I think I
Much
said it
more
wrong.
expensive. Much
Yeah,
more
yeah.
expensive.
Grammar. Grammarly.com. Not sponsored. Just a meme, okay? Um, and you get a lot of things. You get the gimbal, the sensor, and the displays and that stuff included in the price. So that's pretty amazing. And I want
Yes.
to comment on this whole camera is that DJI it's made a very very revolutionary thing that is very innovative, and they merged their knowledge in drones, for example, for the transmissions, and the gimbals like the Ronin SC and so on, all into one camera. So that's pretty amazing of them. They just put everything together, what they did well, in one place. So yeah, that's nice. And speaking about the
Yeah.
good things
Commenting
from DJI.
commenting on the price, Martin.
Oops, sorry.
Sorry. Uh, uh, Commenting on the price, the 6K version is at 7,199, but you have to buy the SSD module. So the SSD module for 1 terabyte is only included in the 8K version. That's for $11,499. So consider buying the 1 terabyte SSD slot for the 6K version in your math when you're thinking about buying it, because it
Yeah.
will be a little bit more expensive, like $500 or something. But if you got like $7,200 for a cinema camera, you will have that $500.
Yeah, exactly.
No big deal.
Yeah. So, still talking about DJI, we got a new action camera, the Action 2. We all know the Action 1, or the Osmo Action, I think it was called back in the day. It was the first action camera with a front display, and that was very revolutionary, and it made a lot of competition to GoPro. But now we got the second version of it, and it's modular. So you have a tiny camera where you have just a display and the lens and the sensor with internal storage up to 32 gigabytes, and then you have different modules that you can put magnetically. For example, the battery module, and what was the other one? I don't
The extra
remember.
screen module.
Yeah,
It's a front-facing screen.
yeah. So you can adapt the camera to your needs. It can film up to 4K 120 FPS. That's very nice. And yeah, it's very portable and, like we said before, magnetic. So you can just put it in anything that's made of metal or magnetic. You just put it up and it will help. So you will have amazing shots from this camera for its tiny aspect ratio. Yeah. It's up to 10
Yeah.
meters waterproof, but just with the camera module. If you have multiple modules, you have to put a case on it. But yeah.
Yeah. As always on sports cameras, you have a 155 degrees field of view, so pretty wide. And as always on GoPro, but here with a different name, we have Rock Steady 2.0 and Horizon Steady. So if you're on a bike, for example, and riding on rocks, or for example an FPV drone, it will be a pretty good stabilization, but you will have to look at reviews and comparisons with the GoPro Hero 10, because that stabilization was very good. It was, I don't know if it has a competition, if these two stabilization softwares can compete, but we will have to check that out. Yeah, as Martin said, there is two combos available: the camera module and the battery module, so extended battery life, or the camera module and the front-facing screen. The camera has a big screen on the back. It's basically like 90% of the body. It's screen in the back. But here you got a second one that's facing you, so you can do like vlogging style on action camera. But
Yeah.
who does that?
A lot of people
Yeah.
will actually do that, especially for traveling, hiking. If they don't want to take a big camera with them, I've seen a lot of people doing that.
Yeah. A big problem on this camera though is that you can actually film 4K 120 FPS, which is very good. You don't have any 5.2 or 5.3K, but 4K 120 is pretty good actually. But problem is the camera module itself has only 32 gigabytes, and 4K 120 is pretty heavy.
Yeah.
So you will need an external SD slot, but the camera module doesn't own any. So you have to put an external module like the screen or the battery one to be able to film like more than 10 or 15 minutes on 4K 120. So not so good, DJI.
Yeah, I think that was just to keep the small size, because if you put a SD card slot, even if it's micro SD, and you also wanted to make it waterproof, it will be very difficult to maintain also the small form factor. So I think that's the argument they had to do that. So probably, I'm not sure, but
They always will have argument, Martin. They always will find one. The good
yeah.
part though is that every combo, it's not sold alone on the DJI page at least, but all comes with magnetic attachments. So everything is magnet based. So you have like a lanyard. So that's like a necklace that you put under your shirt, and you put the camera like in front of it, and it will keep like the POV style, like the GoPro one, but this is magnetic. Ball joint adapter, adapter mount, and power cable. That's all included. So that's nice to have. If you pay very high prices for this camera, you are hoping as well to have this kind of stuff. The prices, very important. For the battery combo, it's in the DJI store at $399, and in the for the dual screen combo, so the extra screen, it's at 519 USD. So that one is, I think, more expensive than the GoPro Hero 10.
Yeah, I think
And
it trades for $429 or euros, the GoPro Hero 10, I think. And also
is
the
it good? Is it bad? Can you achieve it?
uh,
Can you afford it?
yeah,
It depends on
that's
your
to
pocket.
see. And another competition they have, I think it's the Insta360 Go. I think they are now in the second version of it, and they started with this magnetic necklace thing to do the POV style, and the camera is also smaller, so maybe that's more the competition of it, but it's difficult because one is 360 and the other not, so I don't know, but just to have a reference.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
would be interesting to know if you can put like two camera modules, one facing to the other side, and do a kind of
that would be very
360
smart.
thing.
That would be very, very smart.
That's basically AI. You only have to do some
You
AI
just have
based,
to
and
put them
you're
together.
done.
But it's not 100% 360 because you have 155 degrees point of view angle. So
Yeah.
maybe you could achieve something similar, but not 100% it. But
DJI Action 3 coming soon.
yeah, and still talking about DJI, they've been, like I said before, releasing a lot of stuff, holding every week an event for the last 2 weeks now. and we are expecting a third one next week. Probably, I think it was on Tuesday or Wednesday. And the rumors say it will be about the new Mavic 3 line. I've seen some rumors that said the Mavic 3 Pro will have two cameras on it, a I think micro four thirds sensor for the wide angle camera and a 1 inch sensor for the telephoto camera. So that's pretty amazing. The
That's
DJI,
massive for a drone.
oh yeah, the Air 2S that films up to 5.3K and takes very good photos, has a 1 inch sensor and micro four thirds sensor, is in, like, for example, the Panasonic GH5 or GH9. Those are amazing cameras for video, so that will be very interesting to see what DJI puts into this drone, and hopefully the rumors are true. So let's see what they can do.
Let's hope it is like that. What we do know is that Sony released some stuff recently. One very good one. The Sony A74.
This
A
camera
33
was
mega
waiting for a very long time. Everyone was waiting for
Yeah.
it.
We had the A72 lineup or the A73 lineup, sorry, for a very long time, and
3 years.
finally we got here.
It was very
Yeah.
hyped.
Years. Yeah. So finally here we got the A74 with a 33 megapixel full frame Exmor R CMOS sensor with 14-bit raw photos and 5-axis sensor shift stabilization. So pretty good on that one. And talking about the sensor, we got 100 to 51,200 native ISO, but you can expand it to be from 50 ISO, so have that, up to I think it's like 210,000 ISO. So that's nuts. And you know, Sony is Sony, and you will like have very little noise on that 200,000.
He's
Yeah.
a Sony shooter, for your information, so you hear a lot of compliments from his side. I'm just
Yes.
warning you.
Yes, we got here 10 FPS. I would have like to have a little bit more FPS. I don't know if electronic shutter speed will be better, but here on the BH photo page it only said 10 FPS. But I would expect it to be like 20 or 30 FPS because that's the
Mm,
competition and you have to keep up. But
I don't
who
think
knows?
so.
Well, we do know.
30 FPS, Marty, is for the flagship cameras, sport cameras, and you get that in the A1, where you pay like $6,000 for it, and this costs less than the half of it, like 2,800, I think. So it's different fields of photography and different price range and different targeted
Yeah.
audience. So you can expect
I
not so much. But for
with the
example,
specs, I really had forgotten that.
the Canon R6 takes 20, and it's in the same price range, and the Nikon 6 Mark II takes 14. So it's not very bad, but it could be a little bit
Much
quicker.
better.
Yeah, but not 30
Yes.
FPS. I don't think that's reachable in that price
Well,
range.
a little bit more. I mean, I just meant a little bit more. What is good on the processor side is that you can take 828 photos, raw photos, without buffering. So yeah, who takes 828 photos in a row? Like,
Nobody, but it's
and
nice
has
to
to
have the
keep up.
option.
yes, of course. And as you know, Sony is pretty good for pictures, but I think as good as or even better in the video. You got up to 4K 60 FPS with a little crop and 10-bit raw video. So that's actually pretty good for a camera this size, this weight, and this price. So pretty nice to have. You don't have any recording limit, so if you got the storage, you got no limits. And Canon, you don't have overheating problems. You don't have any overheating problems. So you can do the 4K 60 or whatever you want without any limits if it's not too
Hmm.
hot outside because
After
it can affect it.
it, I think it has a little bit of overheating, but when you are recording like an hour or a little bit more, but the Canon overheating was on the 8K side, so it's another story. But
Yeah.
yeah.
On my 6100 Sony that also films 6K, 4K 30, I got overheating, but like 1 hour in, and I
Hmm.
still had memory left. So, but that's not raw. But I mean,
What were you
it's not
doing filming
overheating like
one
my
hour
phone is.
straight of 4K?
Yes,
Just testing or?
yes. No,
Hmm.
I'm just telling you guys, my phone is overheating right now. I just got a notifications. Well, let's keep up with the Sony. We finally got here the side angle flip screen, so no more flip up screen like keeping up with the lens in line, but now we got like vlogging style to the side, and like you got the 360 rotating screen to the side, so that's for some people good, for some people
Yeah,
bad.
for the whole
But
internet creators, this was a very, very expected feature because I think the A73 was like the most popular camera in this field because it's a very good hybrid camera that took photos and video well. So it was the perfect camera for many creators, I would say. But the missing feature was the flip screen to see what you were doing, if you were in focus or I don't know, good framed. But now it turned into the, I'd say, perfect camera for creators. Yeah.
yes, yeah, it's also very good because you got two SD slots, as it is a little bit usual, but this time you have one CF Express Type A slot or an SD. It can fit both, and the second slot is normal SD slot. So pretty good on that side. If you want to use the CF Express, you can use it. But if you want to use just normal SDs because you didn't use CF Express and you don't want to pay like $300 for a good CF Express, you can still use
They're
normal
very
SDs
expensive.
that you have around. Yes. And to finish up, this camera weighs at 658 grams, sorry, with the battery and SD cards in, so it's not that heavy. And it comes in at 2,498 US dollars. That's on the BH photo page because the Sony page just wasn't working. And you will be able to buy this available at December 30th. So for just New Year, you will have it there. No Christmas gifts will be Sony A74. I'm sorry, Santa Claus. You won't be able to keep up.
But for New Year's, who knows? Maybe I don't know if people get things in New Year's. I don't, but in other countries, I think they get. So yeah. And now to the good stuff. Nikon C9 or Z9. I don't know how to pronounce it in English.
Shit.
What's your
That's shit.
problem?
That's shit.
Hmm. You little bastard.
uh,
So yeah, Nikon Z9. It's the new flagship camera, and finally, I would say it's on par with Nikon, with Sony and Canon in the mirrorless game. So that's nice to hear. So we have 45.7 megapixel full frame sensor, and of course we are on the Z mount. One of the most amazing features I would say is 120 pictures per second, although in JPEG 11 megapixel, but still very amazing. And we can take up to 20 pictures per second in lossless compressed RAW, of course with 14-bit color. So that's pretty amazing, and it's pretty strange because now you can't take uncompressed RAW, you just can take lossless compressed RAW, which is actually 30% lighter or smaller files than the lossless compressed RAW and the cameras before. And in compressed RAW and of course with loss RAW. And now we can take over 1000 pictures birth without buffering. So that's pretty amazing. And I saw a video
That's
on
a
YouTube.
little bit more than the Sony.
I saw a video on YouTube. A guy took 2000 pictures before the buffer had to clear. So that's pretty amazing. 2000. That's pretty amazing. And that's also the power of
Good luck editing.
CF
Good luck
Express.
editing that.
With what? What did you say? I didn't heard you acoustically.
Good luck editing
well.
that one.
Oh yeah, you can just edit one and copy the settings and paste them on the all of the photos. So I think that's easy, but your computer will have to process that. Oh yeah, but what I was saying, that's thanks to the CF Express Type B cards. This time we have 2 slots for them, or XUD cards if you want, but for the same money or sometimes even cheaper you can get CF Express cards, and those are much quicker than the XQD cards. Now to the good stuff. We can film up to 8K 60 frames per second video, although that will be available in beginning of 2022, the 8K 60, but now we can film up to 8K 30 without overheating. You can film more than 1 hour without overheating. So of course the recording limit is finally gone on Nikon, because we used to have 30 minutes recording limit, but that's nice. And we got a big variety of codecs to choose from. We got, of course, H.264 and H.265 and ProRes RAW and 422 and 8K 60. So that's pretty amazing. That will be very good for many creators and filmmakers that care about that. That will be a very good combo with the new Max that launched last week. Yeah.
So
the next thing I want.
If you didn't know that about the Max, go back on the podcast and listen to that chapter.
Yeah.
That was like 2 weeks ago, or 1 week ago, and just go on that one because it was very good as well. So you will know what we're talking about here.
Yeah. The EVF is half-inch OLED display with 3.69 megapixels resolution. It has very good auto adjustment of the brightness, and it's very bright, so you can have like HDR visualization. That was the problem with other manufacturers, so that's pretty nice. And we got no blackout. That's pretty good for the sports photographers or wildlife photographers that take a lot of images in a row. You normally will get blackout, so you don't know exactly where you're going or what's happening. So that's pretty good to have. And on pair without,
I will have to interrupt you there because it was not the EVF is not like 3.69 69 megapixels.
Million dots is the same thing. 1 dot is 1 pixel. The same thing. And mega stands for million. Kilo, thousand, mega, million. It's the same thing. Okay.
Doesn't matter.
Talking about blackout and stuff, we got this time just an electronic shutter. No mechanical shutter, just electronic shutter. So that's the first camera to have that. And the good thing about it is it got the very world's fastest scanning rate of the sensor. So this time hopefully we won't get rolling shutter. If you don't know what that is for example when you have LEDs and you try to take pictures of them, you will see flickering because they flicker every time, every second, many times just to shine. Or for example, when you shoot motion, sometimes the objects wouldn't be in the perfect form because of rolling shutter. So yeah, and talking about shutter, we got this time up to 132,000 still. What? Wait, that was German. So I don't know how to say that in English, but
1 over
one,
32,000.
yeah, second till 30 seconds exposure time and ISO from 64 to 25,000. Another thing is we got much better focusing and autofocus in this camera thanks to the new processor, the Xpeed 7, which is much faster than the Xpeed 6 that's built in C6 and Z7, and then the Z6 and Z too many sets, Z7 Mark II. You get two of them, but still this one is much faster. With 493 focusing points in hybrid AF, so you get contrast and phase AF combined. You can track up to faces, eyes, animals, vehicles, and much more thanks to this system. And we got what we had in the pro cameras and the DSLRs, 3D tracking. So when a subject moves, it's much more accurate than just computational, what we had before. So yeah, that's pretty nice. We also got what many cameras were missing, lit buttons. So when you're at night, you don't need a flashlight to see what you're how do you say it? I can't speak English.
What you're
Sorry.
looking at?
What you're looking at, I don't know. So yeah, that's
Pressing.
pretty nice. And we got, of course, like in most of the mirrorless cameras, 5-axis in-body stabilization. So that's pretty good. And now talking about ports, we got like the standard now, a USB-C cable, HDMI, a headphone and a microphone jack, of course separate, an Ethernet connection like you see normally in pro cameras, and of course to the standards of today, Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, and luckily also GPS. Like we used to from
For those
Nikon.
of you who wanted to compare, the Sony didn't have the GPS, so if you are used to like locate the photos and to like a world map with GPS and stuff, you can do it with the Nikon, but not with the Sony. For that, you have to connect it with the app, which
Yeah,
is not that bad.
yeah. And of course, like this Z6 and the other cameras, this camera is weather sealed, so you won't have a problem with rain, and that's pretty good. And this time, like no other camera, we have a special shutter cover. So every time that you turn your camera off, this will cover the sensor and protect it. In other cameras, you see the mechanical shutter protecting this sensor, but that's not the best thing because if you damage that, you damage your shutter. So that could bring you a lot of problems. But now it's a special one that's more resistant to objects and damage in general, so you got your sensor much more protected. Talking about size, this one is 20% smaller than the D6, the newest DSLR flagship camera, and we got a 4-axis tilt monitor. I think you have one of those in some Fujifilm and Pentax cameras, but this allows you for when you're using the vertical grip that also has this camera, you can still tilt the monitor to have a good viewing angle. And last but not least, we got the NL AL 18D battery in it, but you can still use all of the other NLAL 18 family members, like the NLL 18A, B, and so on. So yeah, I'm stoked to see someday in person this camera and not just over the internet. And I'm glad that Nikon finally caught up with Sony and Canon, and that is
Yeah,
back in the game.
they
Ah,
didn't code up like at 100% because the screen is not like to the side vlogging style,
but
but
this
it's more
camera
like
is
the
not thought for bloggers. This one is for pros. You'll see in the price point. Ah, talking about price point. Many of us were expecting it to be like 8,000 US dollars. That was very, very expensive. But for our surprise, it cost just $5,500, I think. So it was much cheaper than we expected. And also Nikon announced new lenses, the 100 to 400 set mount and the 24 to 120. So yeah, I think that was all what we had to say. So yeah,
yeah, we finally caught up. We finally caught up with the new releases. I think
yeah,
we done for now. We don't have anything new to post, so we'll have to wait till November 5th to
to
wait
see
till
what
that
DJI
DJI
launches.
unveils the hopefully new Mavic 3 series, because we hope that's a series and not just a new one. And I hope they don't launch like a Mini 3, because that would be like very disappointing on DJI.
So yeah,
So,
thanks for
yeah, guys.
listening, and hopefully we'll talk to you soon. This time, not in a month, but yeah. Thanks for listening, and bye bye.
Next week, new release, and we will hope to do the episode as soon as we can. So, bye, guys, and listen to us on the next one. Bye bye.
Bye.